Today, the power players in Hollywood are reeling in shock because the government shutdown ended and their side got no concessions. Let's see how that added to the identity crisis Hollywood is currently suffering from. This video is sponsored by Black Forest Supplements. It is now 1 year since Hollywood was rocked to the core by the re-election of Donald Trump. And now they got rocked to the core again by their side losing the government shutdown battle. That is all the industry trades, which are supposed to cover entertainment, can write about today. The reason this hits them so hard is that in the years prior, a number of Hollywood power players had decided that Team Democrat was on the right side of history, and found it opportune to use the platform of their studios, brands and talent to go hyper-partisan and proselytize the message upon the world, regardless of the fact that major aspects of this message were seen as wholly insane outside the Hollywood bubble, i.e. on the rest of the planet. The big reality check came last year then, when the voters of America pushed back against everything Hollywood had fought for, while the movie-going audience of the world collectively checked out of all the major entertainment brands that were considered evergreen. Now, as a direct result of Hollywood's foray into hyper-partisan politics, pop culture is dead because DEI killed it. And the government shutdown ending only serves to highlight the identity crisis Hollywood currently suffers from. We're about to get into that, but on the note of killing. If you dump this here powder from Black Forest Supplements into your coffee, or hot chocolate if you so please, that just might make you 27% harder to kill. Because the Harvard Cosmos study, which included some 21,000 participants, just confirmed that cocoa flavanols might reduce your risk of a heart attack by 27%. Alas, regular chocolate doesn't do much, as 90% of the active flavanols get destroyed during processing. In their purer form though, cocoa flavanols keeps your arteries flexible. Here's Dr. Eric Berg, one of the most watched health educators on YouTube, talking about it.
There's some seriously amazing benefits for the heart. Decreased blood pressure because you're getting increased nitric oxide, which actually helps the smooth muscle of the arteries. Now, the blood pressure effect can also happen due to the high levels of magnesium. It's also loaded with iron and potassium and copper and phosphorus and zinc. Number 2. It can increase your HDL, decrease your LDL, especially the oxidized LDL. Number 3, major studies showing the decrease in risk of heart disease, okay? This is the big one right here, decreasing endothelial dysfunction. This is where heart disease starts. It's the inside of the layer of the artery, specifically the coronary, that starts to become damaged, and then the cholesterol comes and the calcium comes and builds a plaquing and a clot. And so these antioxidants protect the inside layer of the artery.
This is what you get with Black Forest's high flavanol cocoa. It's not candy, even though it tastes like it. It's performance fuel. Every scoop delivers the same active compounds Harvard researchers linked to cardiovascular support, better blood flow, and even sharper focus. So if you're looking for that extra insurance policy to keep your blood flowing and that ticker pumping, and you want to spice up your coffee a bit, this is what you're looking for. And you're not the only one. The science actually is pretty clear here, so as more and more learn of the benefits with cocoa flavanols, demand is soaring worldwide. Meaning, supply is getting more limited and prices have been skyrocketing across the board, which is why you should stock up now, as for a very limited and possibly last time, Black Forest has a special offer. For the next 48 hours, you can buy one, get one free. Due to the global supply situation, you might not get that deal again, so take control of your health and stock up now. Link is in the description and pinned comment. With that, let's return to Hollywood's identity crisis. Thinking themselves on the right side of history. Let's be generous and assume that was the motivation. Hollywood collectively went all in on the message and proselytizing hyper-partisan politics. For many, this allegiance was only skin deep, but a great many people went so all in, so much so that it became part of their identity. For them, it is very, very hard to watch the audience reject everything they fought so hard for and all the messaging they infused into pop culture. And result of that? Doctor Who is dead. Rian Johnson just confirmed what we all knew, namely that his Star Wars trilogy is dead. Marvel is a money loser now, while Predator Badlands, the one Disney movie this year that had no wokeness or ideopolitical messaging of any kind, turned out a surprise hit, with its weekend box office projections actually increasing as more and more came to learn that despite the disinformation of the Hollywood trade, the Predator wasn't queer, no matter how much the true believers wished that he was. Adding insult to injury for the remaining true believers though, high-profile talent that used to be down with the message are now increasingly stepping back from the activism that was almost seen as mandatory just 1 year ago, and that is what yesteryear's starlet Jennifer Lawrence just did. Jennifer Lawrence was recently the subject of a major interview piece in the New York Times, and this is where she let it be known that she would no longer be using her platform to speak out against Donald Trump. 1 decade after she said the world would end if he were to win in 2016. And while the world kept on turning, she kept on repeating that message on a regular basis. Right up until now. Now she's done. The New York Times set this up with the question, your persona in the world has sometimes been viewed as too loud, too much. Looking back, what do you think about how you were perceived as you were coming up? To which she answered, now that I'm in my 30s and a mum, I can see how young I was. When I meet a 23-year-old now, they're children, as horrified as I am at some things, like an old interview or something, so cringe, I get it. I was young and nervous and defensive and awkward. To be fair, she isn't just referring to her political activism here, but that too is tacitly brushed off as a folly of youth. Now that she is older and has children of her own, she's a bit more reflected and won't be repeating those mistakes again. Later on, the New York Times asks her dead on, you have been politically outspoken in the past. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. I'm curious about how you feel about speaking out now, to which she answers, I don't really know if I should. During the first Trump administration, I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. That, incidentally, is a very startling admission and one that also rocks Hollywood to its core. But she continues, so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart. This, of course, echoes what I've been saying for years. Never mind that the likes of Jennifer Lawrence made a habit out of sharing their opinion on matters where they were not qualified to have one. Beyond that, pop culture used to be the glue that held people together in one culture, despite other differences. By making pop culture partisan, the way Jennifer Lawrence herself is guilty of, the only thing that was achieved is that something that used to be unifying became divisive. And I think that is a big part of her change here. She recognizes that she herself became divisive, which is bad for business, so now it's time to walk that back, lest it damage her career even more than it already has. I wouldn't give her any more credit than that, but even so, her saying this in such a public manner which went viral is a big blow to the many true believers still in Hollywood, those who found great relief in Sydney Sweeney's latest film flopping at the box office. Sydney Sweeney has great genes, and she has been on the outs with the Democratic establishment within Hollywood ever since it emerged that she reportedly and allegedly is a conservative and a Trump supporter to boot. She hasn't said much to this effect herself, mind you, but others have opinionated it on her behalf, and she stubbornly refuses any chance to pledge her allegiance to the causes Hollywood really wants her to be aligned with.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
As such, many in Hollywood were quite gleeful when her latest feature, Christie, tanked at the box office, going out of their way to spread that it was the 9th worst opening of all time across the world, taking great delight in that the MAGA audience had failed to show up to support their star. On this one, though, Jon Stewart was the voice of reason, as he bemoaned the government shutdown ending, with the Democrats having nothing to show for it, despite all the things they had going for them.
You had the wind at your back. Election victories all over the country. The new Sweeney movie, box office bupkis. Apparently, her new MAGA fan base didn't show up in droves to see a biopic about a lesbian professional boxer who overcomes domestic violence to live her truth. Who could have seen that coming?
Indeed, there may be other reasons why the audience didn't flock to see that movie that had nothing to do with Sweeney being the face of it. If anything, it is the kind of movie the Hollywood trade would normally have attacked the audience, especially the male audience, for not seeing. Besides, this movie was always a talent showcase made for the awards circuit, and the actual money made would have been considered a bonus, which is what so many in Hollywood find so painful about this. Just like with Madam Web, which also flopped big time, Sweeney will walk away from this unscathed, and the true believers find that a bitter pill to swallow. The biggest one, though, is accepting that all along, they were the ones on the wrong side of history. It is said that there is a lot of narcissism going around in Hollywood, and one of the defining features of that particular identity disorder is a lack of a stable self. A number of great actors have even opined that the reason they are so good at becoming others is that they themselves don't know who they are. While that hopefully isn't the case with all that many, a big problem in Hollywood in particular, one of the most hyper-partisan bubbles on the face of the earth, is that so many in it, from producers to actors to journalists, let the politics of their bubble become part of who they are. Like any good cult member, they were so sure of themselves and the righteousness of their belief that now, when they're faced with incontrovertible evidence that they were indeed in a bubble and the world outside rejected everything they stood for, the cognitive dissonance is so great that they don't know how to cope. And that, in a nutshell, is Hollywood right now. That's why you have some moving on, promising their days of activism are behind them, while other bitter enders are still desperately trying to get a new generation of stars, like Sweeney, to publicly say their slogans and join the woke path. That is why the Hollywood trade is almost writing more about what happens in Washington than what happens in Hollywood. This is a Hollywood in identity crisis, trying to build themselves a new identity, after the previous one was repudiated by reality and by the audience. How do you think Hollywood has been coping with the end result of their own activism so far? And where should they go from here? Let me know in the comments. And before you go, remember that for the next 48 hours, you can buy one, get one free of Black Forest Supplements Cocoa Flavanols. So stock up now.